What's going on, everybody? It's about time we get this started here. All right. So today we're going to be going over the new features. It's going to be it's going to be the engraving portion of the MetalFab, which is going to be available in the new software once it's released, which will be xTool Studio. So once we get that going, once that's released, you guys will, if you guys already have the MetalFab, you will have the option to do the engraving. For now, it's still in a testing mode. It should be released very soon, I've been told. But we're going to go ahead and demo that for you today. We're going to do some engraving, and then we're also going to go over the new accessory, the rust removal tool, and which it does work awesome. It's really cool. It really makes a really wide path. Mine is going to look slightly different on my machine because I did have the prototype machine. So on the menus on yours will be a lot easier to use. I have to click around a little bit. It's not that big of a deal, but mine is just a little different. So I wanted to give you all that heads up. We're also going to be doing multiple giveaways today. We're going to do 2 lucky draws, and then you can get $300 off just the welding unit itself, or $500 off the welding unit plus the CNC, which is what you need to do with the CNC stuff over there. So it's $500 off with the coupon posted right there, over there to the left, or the left side of the screen, right side of the screen. Not sure which side it's on for y'all, but yeah, we'll go ahead and get that started today. So we're just going to go over a little bit of the slideshow first. So you can also, I just want to point out that you can also book a live demo if you want a little bit more information, a one-on-one. You can do it with any of the members of xTool Squad that have the MetalFab offered. So that is available. You can find information on that right on xTool's website. That was my employee walking in the background. You can find information right on xTool's website, right at the top. Book a live demo. I believe they are actually free right now. So go ahead and check that out if you guys need some more information or a little bit detailed information that we didn't cover today. So go ahead and, so a little bit about me. I am Mike Smirka. I own Dial Designs LLC. I've been doing laser engraving for years now. Before this, I was an IT engineer. If you tuned in before to some of my other live streams, you know a little bit about me. I also have a plethora of other lasers, as you can see, such as the P2s, the P2S, the F1, the F1 Ultra, the F2 Ultra, and most recently, the P3. So we're going to go ahead and do some live demos of those things today, and we'll have a Q&A at the end where y'all can ask me all the questions that you guys need to answer, or you guys need answered as we go today. So let's go ahead and get this show on the road here. Again, talked about the lucky draw, and I talked about the discount code. We're going to have that. It's valid for the next 7 days. So go ahead and place your order for the MetalFab if you're interested in doing it. And again, if you need more information, you can just reach out to the xTool Squad members for that. Little bit about the MetalFab. If you're unfamiliar, it's the world's first 4-in-1 metal solution, meaning it could do engraving, it could do cutting, it could do welding, and it could do rust removal. And from my experience, it does all of those things really well. But where it really shines for me is the metal cutting. I love with the CNC how fast it cuts through. I love how fast it cuts through all of the different metal. I've done everything from 0.5 millimeter brass all the way up to 10 millimeter carbon steel. And just the speed that it cuts with and the precision, it's kind of really cool. So a little bit about the engraving. Now, I'm not going to do a photo necessarily today, but this is a photo that I did on, and this is on the MetalFab itself. So that's a photo of my grandma and my dog Cinnamon. I wanted to put that on a wind chime, and you know they're no longer with us, so I wanted to go ahead and make a memorial wind chime for them. So I wanted to practice on some stainless beforehand. But yeah, I think that came out awesome. One thing I am going to demo today is that it will, I'm going to show you how it's going to look with and without laser marking spray. So get into this a little more, but there's without and there is with. As you can see, one is noticeably darker, and I'll kind of go over a little bit of why. So one of the things is the precision engraving. As you can see, I mean, with the MetalFab, we're able to do really precise engraving. I mean, photo engraving. I was able to mark rulers. It's going to be able to do mark all of your anodized materials and all that. Now, because it is a gantry laser, gantry means it goes on an arm back and forth. There is another option out there, the F2 Ultra, which that is going to be a little bit faster at marking, as you guys will see. But nevertheless, it will do the MetalFab will do your marking. All right. So now is the point of the show where we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you guys a little bit of xTool Studio and a little bit of the engraving. And by the way, guys, I don't have all, because this is being live streamed in 3 different places. It's being live streamed on Facebook Live, YouTube on xTool's channel, as well as YouTube on my channel. So depending on where you're watching it, I may or may not be seeing your questions as they pop up. So let's save those for the Q&A, and I'll kind of try to bounce around as much as I can and get those answered as I see them. So that's the best I can kind of do here, because I can't bounce between all of the different chats all at once, unfortunately, as much as I would love to. But so on that note, let's go ahead and let's show you guys some of this engraving. So I'm going to pop over here into my xTool Studio software. I didn't have a quick button set up for that because xTool Studio is new. But here we should be. Well, little technical difficulty there. Let me just switch over and make sure xTool Studio is selected here. There we go. Sorry about that. When the software updates come out, sometimes I don't get all these overlays updated perfectly. But here we go. So as you can see on the screen, we have 2 bitmap pictures. They're just little pontoon boats. That's just something quick and easy that we can do. And then we'll go ahead and cut them out. As you can see, xTool Studio looks a little differently. Now, what you're going to notice right away is we have a mode for this. It's called combined processing. So once this is released, you guys will be able to access this combined processing mode. This is where you're going to be able to do your engraving. So, of course, there are some preset settings and all that. So I have my material selected, and we're going to do this twice. And I have one of them with the laser marking spray, which I'll show you guys on the machine itself, and then one of them without. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and calibrate our capacitive sensor like we always need to do. So we'll go ahead and do it on the one without the laser marking spray first. I'm going to go ahead and set up this camera so y'all can see it. We'll be able to bounce between it. So as you guys can see, once I switch this back over here. So as you guys can see on this, we just did our test, but as you can see, this has this white powdery coating on it. That is the laser marking spray on some stainless, and this is just the bare stainless. So we're going to start off with just the bare stainless on a quick engrave first. We'll go ahead and get that closed up for y'all. So now We'll go ahead and switch back over. To my xTool Studio. There we go. And then now we'll go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and turn this one off. So we're doing them one at a time here. So we have our bitmap, which is the little pontoon boat here, as well as our cut. That's just going to be the same as you would normally. So for that, we're going to go ahead. We have both of those selected. They're both enabled. We have our settings put in for that. We're going to do our processing height. We're going to do it following mode, which means it's going to follow any curves. So if it were to have any bends or anything like that, it'll actually use the capacitive head to maintain its correct distance. So let's go ahead and process that. So as you can see, it's going to take 2 minutes and 27 seconds here. We're just going to be using our ordinary nozzle with some compressed air. I'm actually going to have to go over and lower the air compressor a little bit. I do have it set currently for the cutting portion. So I'll do that when we get started, but we'll go ahead and press start. And you'll see that it's going to be 2 steps. It's going to do the first step, which is going to be your engraving. And then you have to do some adjustments. So when you're doing your adjustments for the focus and all that, that's when you're going to switch over to the, you're going to adjust your focus knob, and it's going to have a second job for you to start. So we'll go ahead and hit start. And I'll go ahead and switch the camera over. Oop, wrong camera. There we go. Sorry about that. We'll go ahead and we'll hit the start button here. And I'm going to go ahead and lower the air pressure because it does call for less PSI. And this is going to be about a 2-minute engrave. So while that engrave is going on, I'm going to go walk over to my desk and see if I can answer some questions while that's happening. Benny, the live rust removal, it will be mobile. As long as you could supply power to the machine, you will be able to do this mobily for sure. And then the other questions, how deep will the engraving go? The engraving is pretty deep. It's definitely a little bit deeper than the surface level or anything like that. Like it's not anything that's going to just like wipe off or scratch off very easily. Hi, Sam, and everybody else that's here. So what it's going to do is that's going to keep running. It's got about a minute left. And you can see it maintains a little bit of distance. Now, I don't have that double layer nozzle that it calls for. So one of the things that when you do have it, that double layer nozzle will come in handy as it shows in that diagram there. So it will, it does take some time. You'll notice like if you were to do this, say on the F2 Ultra or the F1 Ultra, you'll notice that like to do an engraving of this size, it might be a bit faster, but that's part of it. That's because it's it's a gantry laser. It has to go back and forth on that axis. It's not as fast as a Galvo, which the Galvo is like the F1 and F2, shoots down from the center and uses mirrors to control the where the beam goes, the beam pattern. All right, so we're just about 15 seconds left. There we go. And now we'll go ahead and switch back. So now, as you guys can see, it shows on the screen, it shows completed task 1 of 2. So now what we're going to do is we're going to click next. And we're going to go ahead and adjust our air pressure as well as adjust our recommended nozzle position. I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Excuse me. So I'm gonna go ahead and adjust that to that -1. And I'm gonna turn my PSI back up on my air compressor so I get a nice clean cut on that. And then we'll go ahead and do that cut up here. And as you can see, that was really, really fast. That's just part of it. There we have it. I mean, you can see in the light, it's a little darker. What I was going to do is going to go clean this off real quick. And then in the meantime, we'll go ahead and get the other one started. We'll get it done with the laser marking spray. I'm going to go preset it up for that. Just so you guys can compare the two. And I'm just going to run the same exact job as I did before. We'll hit finished. I'm just going to turn this off and turn these on. And we're just going to do it on the metal where there's the laser marking spray. So we'll go ahead and process that. I'll go ahead and hit start. And then we'll be able to watch that go. All right. So while that's going, I'll go ahead and pop over and ask some questions here. I got a question from Jack in the shop. Is this like a regular fiber that you could change the power, speed, frequency, and Q pulse? So you could change the power and speed. You can also change the frequency, but there is no Q pulse. So there, if you're looking for a Q pulse, you're looking for more of like the F2, like a MOPA fiber, rather than what this is. This is not a MOPA fiber laser. And does the menu ever all for oxygen during the engraving portion? I assume that means call. And no, what I've been using with the engraving portion is just the compressed air. All right, so that's going to keep going. Let me check over at Facebook land. All right. I was trying to do some carbon steel and kept getting a collision warning. How can I avoid this message? So let's save that, all these questions for the a lot of the questions about different topics other than the engraving. Let's try to save those for the Q&A portion of this. But that's going to go ahead and finish up. It's got about 35 seconds left, and then we'll go ahead and do the cut, and I'll be able to show you to like a comparison difference. And this is just with the xTool base settings. Again, I didn't go ahead and dial any of my own personal settings in for it quite yet that I will be using during this demo, but all right, cool. So I'm just going to go ahead and roll the dial here and set it up for the cutting. We're going to go ahead and cut at that -1. I'll go ahead and get that started. All right. All right. So that's what we get. I'm going to go ahead and rinse this off. I'm going to have my employee rinse this off real quick, and then you'll see what it looks like without the powder. or without the, sorry, the powder, the marking spray. Kyler, could I get you to go ahead and wipe these off? Wipe them off and bring them back over to me. All right, so while Kyler is going ahead and doing that, let's go ahead and jump back over to the studio. All right, so in a second, we'll have our finished results. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm having my employee wipe them off right now. And then we'll be able to show you guys the difference between with the marking spray and not. Another example that we just did live. So in the meantime, I will show you again. So there's what this photo looked like with marking spray. And again, this is processed in a outside. I had it processed for basically dithering it, getting it ready for laser engraving. And then this is without. You can see the one is significantly darker if we put them side by side. And that's what the difference is going to be when it comes to doing your engraving like that. If you use a marking spray, it will end up being a little darker. So let's go pop back over. So we do have we did have a question. So so if you did go ahead and up the power on the 0.2 aluminum or did a higher power, well, that's something that you would want to go ahead and do some testing on. So that will actually show you quite a bit of difference. So that's what, that's what the testing is for. So they give you some base settings in XCS, but anytime I want to go ahead and really have something dialed in for my machine specifically, because each machine is going to be calibrated and each machine is going to have a little bit of a different variation. You want to make sure to use those base settings, and then if you need to try outside of it to get a better result, you can. So that again, this is our result. Here, I'll switch to just me. So this is our result with just the engraving. And then this is our result with the laser marking spray. So we can see side by side there. I went ahead and defocused it a little bit with that laser marking spray, but you can see this one's a little deeper into the metal, and this one just, it seems to come out a little better. I like using the laser marking spray with this laser. I get a real nice result. It's a real nice dark finish there. And again, these are with the default settings. Again, this is something that, like, if I was going to be doing a lot of it, I would want to go ahead and dial in my settings on my own. The more you practice and kind of get those settings configured for your own machine and your own material, the better you're going to be. So we'll go ahead. I'm going to jump back over into this slideshow. And again, we'll answer all of the questions that you guys have all at the end. I'll go ahead and go through the list and whatnot. So the efficient rust removal. Now, I really got to say, I really was surprised at how good the rust removal tool works. Now that I haven't, now that they sent me the rust removal accessory, how wide the path is and all that. I did a couple saw blades, which I'll go grab for you real quick. So one of the things you can see right here, you can see how rusty this saw blade was, and I didn't do all of it, but you could do that portion right here, and that's what it looks like after. I mean, it definitely took all that rust off. So you're ready to kind of just polish it up depending on what finish you want, or you could just remove the rust. You can go ahead and weld right after. One of the things that I like to do is when I'm done with my welds, I like to use the rust removal tip, and I like to go ahead and go over those welds. It leaves a real nice bright finish on them. So as you can see, you get some professional grade results. I'm really happy with how it all turns out. I'm going to go ahead and demo today. I have a really, really rusty piece of metal, as well as a cast iron that we're going to go ahead and do. But some of the things that it would definitely be good for if you work in any kind of automotive thing, like any automotive industry, getting the rust off of frames, small parts, bike chains, even your tools. I can't tell you how many times I've left my tools outside on accident and then had to go ahead and, buy new tools because they were rusty. Well, this definitely will be changing that. So if you have like rusty rotors, rusty clips, just use the MetalFab. Go ahead and get that rust right off. So now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you guys a little bit of the rust removal here. So for this, I'm just going to pop over to my camera. And then the other question, the thing I did see real quick, and does it rub off with the laser marking spray? No. The laser marking spray is actually really good on there. I just had my employee clean it up. And I mean, I'll sit and scratch it. See if I have anything abrasive on my desk here. There's a magic eraser, not the most abrasive, but you can see I'm kind of rubbing it on it right there. Nope, still the same. So with the laser marking spray, it definitely doesn't rub right off. But we're gonna go ahead and pop over. I'm gonna switch to the, I'm gonna switch and do this. We're gonna do this live demo. But before we do, we're gonna go ahead and do one lucky draw first. So if you're in the group, let's drop the word engraving in the chat and we'll go ahead and pick a winner. So the word is engraving. I'll give everybody a minute here. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and pick a couple winners here in just 1 second. Let's get everybody in here. Trying to make sure I give everybody a chance to drop the word engraving, as that's what we're going over right now. All right. Let's see who we pick. We got Jimmy and Jeffy from who commented. Go ahead and message xTool support or xTool, and they will go ahead and give you guys a gift card. We got a Jimmy and a Jeffy. Is who got picked for that one. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go through the comments and I'm going to pick one more. Let me scroll. We'll pick a scrolling. And we'll pick somebody from the Facebook. We'll pick a Bob Jeffrey. Bob Jeffrey is where my mouse landed on when I stopped. So that's who we're going to pick for the third one. So we got Jimmy, Jeffy, and Bob Jeffrey. If you message xTool, they will go ahead and get you that lucky draw winning gift card for $50. So now we'll go ahead and move on. Let's do some rust removal. Now, I'm going to have to go ahead. I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to do it. But to do the rust removal, you need to switch over the machine just a little bit. And I will show you guys how that's done. All right, so first thing we're gonna have to do, we'll have to turn off our machine, or turn off our CNC. With that off, we're gonna go ahead and unclamp our laser gun here. One clip, 2 clips, 3 clips. Get that out of the way. And we're gonna remove our cutting accessory. So now we have this. What we're gonna need to do is we're gonna need to swap out our lens under here, our first protective lens. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this over here because I have my protective lens in a pouch here, and I'm gonna go ahead and put on some rubber gloves so I don't get any fingerprints or debris on it, and then we will go from there. All right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. So what we're going to do to start, we're going to go ahead and remove this, our first protective lens cover. We're going to slide it out here just like that. Now, you really want to keep track of which one's which because you don't want to mix them up. So I'm going to go ahead and put my gloves on here just so I don't get any fingerprints or anything else on it. It's just a little step that I like to do. And we're going to go ahead, and here is our original protective lens. We're just going to go ahead and pop this retaining ring out just like that. Set this aside. And then I'm going to grab my microfiber towel that got moved. Go ahead and open up. Here's going to be our replacement lens. This is our 45 millimeter lens. And you'll notice on the outside of it, it's going to be really, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to really show it on camera, but you can see, actually I can. See right on the side there how it actually says ultra wide focal lens, and it gives you an arrow pointing to where the direction it needs to go. You want to make sure you have that installed correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and put my other lens over there. I'm going to install my focusing lens the correct way, as long as I remembered everything correctly. Should be good to go. And you really want to be careful not to drop these because it's glass, it doesn't like being dropped. And then we're going to go ahead and put our retaining ring back in just like that and slide this back into our laser gun. All right, now that we got that swapped over, we're ready to do some rust removal. Our next thing is we have our laser wand here. We're going to go ahead and get that set up. To get this, all you're going to do is insert that right into the gun. Just like that. Clamp that down. And you can see it has a wheel. That's what's going to turn, that's what's going to activate the laser, and it's going to be the safety switch basically to turn the actual lasering on and off. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to set this over here. Our last step is we have this cable. And this cable is going to plug right into the same port as your ground or your safety interloop. So the same as when you're doing where you do your clamp for your welding. So that just plugs in right down there. And then on the screen, mine looks a little different again. I'm going to go ahead and do rust removal. We're going to do some carbon steel. I'm going to select 10 millimeters. I'm going to enable some lasering. Now we're ready to go. So for the demo, I'll go ahead and try to back this up, angle this camera down so you guys can see it. There you go. I'm gonna go ahead and set down a little tray for me to work with. I got a rusty piece of metal. I got a rusty cast iron skillet. And we'll go ahead and do the rest of this saw blade right there. So now the only other step we need to do is make sure we're wearing our safety protection. I'm going to be wearing my helmet because I don't want to go blind. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to depress this. Now that we have it enabled, push this down. And as you guys can see, the key thing is you need to have this wheel pushed down for it to pass that safety interlock loop. And now for our last test, we'll go ahead and do this old cast iron. And there you have it. We'll go ahead and set that over there. But as you can see, we went from real rusty to really not rusty in a hurry. I did a okay job, but that's what it started looking like, and that's what it ended up looking like. So you really can't beat that as far as the rust removal goes. Our cast iron, you can see I missed a couple spots. It had a little residue on it, but it still took all that right off. Clean those edges right up. And again, our saw blade cleaned right up. No problem. So, now that we have that rust removal demo done, typically I would recommend some fume extraction or, even doing it outside, just something to suck up any of that rust dust as you're doing it. But for this quick demo, I just had my normal exhaust fan going and my air scrubbers going. I need to go ahead and refresh the screen, get all your comments loaded up here. This way I can see if there's any new questions. We're going to go ahead and go to the FAQ, which should be the Q&A. So we'll go ahead and start that Q&A session real quick. And I'm going to get my hat back. All right. So now that we just got it, we're just going to be doing the Q&A. I'm going to go ahead and try to monitor the chats here, the different in the different places, and see what we can get some going. So the rust removal lens does come with the rust removal wand, and it does make it very easy. Yeah. I mean, as you've seen, I just kind of winged it around there. I was trying to do it one-handed while also holding the microphone and all that jazz. So it went ahead and removed the rust. That was, I'll go grab it real quick. That was some pretty rusty metal to begin with. As you can see, we started with this. We ended up like this. Disregard the fact that I missed the spot, but that's a pretty substantial difference for just some old rusty metal that I found in the scrapyard. So let me see if I can get a list of your questions. If y'all have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat right now. And I'm going to go ahead and try to keep them refreshed. It's just there is a lot of them. So go ahead and let's drop your questions right now. And as I see them pop up, I will go ahead and do my best to get those answered for you if you guys have specific questions. Let's do all comments. Go to the more. I see where Bob asked earlier what kind of DPI it will do. So I'm looking at it, and it doesn't do DPI, but it does lines per centimeter. And it will do up to 200 lines per centimeter. So that's a little bit less than the other machines, but again, it comes out with some pretty good detail. That's just something you're going to need to dial in as far as settings go. Do I know if it will remove forge scale? I can't say, David Thomas, that I have tested it with forge scale specifically. But I can't say I've tested it. But if I had to guess, yeah, I don't really even want to speculate because I haven't tested it. It's one of the things, if I don't test it in the shop, you know, I don't want to say it one way or the other because I don't want to mislead anybody on any settings or if it will work for this or that. Alan, I see you asked about the compressor going up to 1 kPa. Yep, that's normal. 1 kPa, or I think that's the equivalent of 145 PSI. The marking spray, Tom, is not required. And again, it'll mark on it without it for sure. As you can see, like it will absolutely mark. This is without it. This is with it. It's just one is more a little bit darker. It's a little bit more black. Rust removal, all I'm doing is running it on with the air compressor. The software is in beta testing, so that will be coming out soon. So, Evan, on the original plan, I did show that. So it will always do the engrave before the cut in the software when you're doing the combined processing. That's part of it. John, are reflections something to worry about when engraving versus cutting? Yeah, you always need to be kind of worried about the bounce back. You don't want to really do polished material. That's another thing. If you're doing like a polished material, that's something that the laser marking spray can kind of help with. You can, Randy asked, how do you access the 24 by 24 workspace? You should just be able to access it all. It kind of shows it all right on the screen. I've actually cut a 24-inch circle out without an issue. So that should kind of already be enabled. I'm trying to look for other questions here. Joe asks, do I always use dry compressed air or oxygen for better, or nitrogen, argon? So that really depends on what I'm doing. Typically, I'm just using the dried compressed air for most of my cuts. I get good results with it, but I played with the settings quite a bit to get there. So it's just a matter of dialing into the settings for your material. Depends which kind of metal. Now, when you get up into the thicker carbon steels, I have found that oxygen definitely works better. Depending on what you're doing. Also, if you're doing smaller stuff, sometimes with stainless, like 3 mil, sometimes I'll use nitrogen. I find it with the higher PSI, I get a little bit better of a result because my air compressor goes to only 145 PSI. John, I don't have an answer on when the rust removal will be, or the engraver or the rust removal will be available to everybody. xTool might be able to respond to you with a comment there. And yes, it will, Sylvia, it will engrave and cut without oxygen. Let me go ahead and try to reload these chats here. It's hard to bounce between all the different platforms to make sure I'm getting all the questions. But one of the things I just want to talk about is, since like I've had this machine the longest out of anybody, I guess, at all, I had my machine since February. One of the pros of having it, the xTool, you know, the MetalFab, where I could bounce between this and say the F2 Ultra, one of the things I've been doing is I've been cutting things on my MetalFab, and then without having to completely redo the design or re-import the design in something else, I just switch it over to the F2 Ultra, and then I'm able to do my engraving right on it. If I wanted to do like my stainless projects where I was able to do color, I go ahead and just pop between the two that way. That's a big advantage. Another big advantage of the MetalFab that I found is that I could switch between the welding and the engraving and the cutting in a couple minutes. Especially like if I was doing rust removal and welding, that would only take about a minute because I just have to switch the nozzle. If I was doing, say, if I wanted to do some cutting and then rust removal, you've seen that takes about a minute. It's just a couple little clips to switch over. So since I've been working with it from the start, that's been a huge advantage for me, that you're able to just switch between the different modes and stay within the XCS ecosystem. And now, well, xTool Studio is what it will be called once that's released. Hopefully I'm getting all these questions. I'm trying to hit refresh for y'all, but it does not seem like it's properly refreshing, at least on the Facebook end of it. Rust removal, Tom, rust removal absolutely can be done on the CNC component of it. It comes with a different nozzle. You just put that different nozzle on, and I could show you that in the software. So go ahead and try to switch back real quick. So to do rust removal with the CNC, all you're going to do, let me go to xTool Studio. All you would end up doing is, instead of being in this combined processing, and this is in the XCS version also, you would just click on the different modes the same way as you would, say, between switching the rotary and flat or slats with the P2 or whatever. But you just go to rust removal here. And if you're in rust removal mode, that's where you would go ahead and put in that, it looks like a cone as a nozzle or like a funnel. pop that in there, and you'd be able to do the rust removal in the CNC that way. Go ahead and see what other questions I got. There we go. What is the thickest material you can weld or you have welded? I have done 5 millimeter thick, which is about the thickest they recommend, Roger. But that's also going to depend on what material you're working on. Evan, I don't have that answer for when the rust removal tool will become available. I do know that if you're just purchasing your MetalFab today on this live stream, you can go ahead and you will get the rust removal wand with your order for free. So it's a nice little bonus for y'all. Go ahead and move that over. There we go. So let me see what other questions that we have. And I'm trying to bounce between the YouTube, the Facebook groups and all that, or the Facebook to get all the questions. So let's make sure to drop those there. Hop over to the other YouTube. All right. Do y'all have any more questions in there? I haven't seen any pop up in the chat for a minute. I don't know if mine's just lagging behind. Trying to refresh the Facebook one also. It doesn't seem to be refreshing the same way. All right. I just want to refresh the screen. Only for metal. That's a question. All right. There we go. Now it looks like I'm getting the other questions. Cutting aluminum. Do I use the air compressor? I would like to do 1/8. Alan, that's going to depend on the grade of aluminum you're doing. Again, that's something that I would want to practice and dial into settings. I know that I've done 3 mil 6061 aluminum using only compressed air. That's what I was working with those settings. What other questions? Will the existing MetalFab owners, I don't have the answer to that. I think it will be available as an accessory if you already own a MetalFab for you to go purchase it. This is a promotion, I believe, with the new purchase. I see a question about cutting carbon steel. I'm able to typically do carbon. I do 2 millimeter carbon steel. I use just the compressor and the air compressor and the compressed air with my 2 millimeter nozzle. And I'm able to cut 2, and I've cut 3 mil and even thicker carbon steel with just the compressed air. As far as materials go, no, it is not for wood. I don't have an idea, Steven, I don't have an idea of cost. xTool mentioned that you will get half off of the accessory if you bought the MetalFab before June 24th. Pablo, no laser is supposed to be used for cutting vinyl. I'll just clear that up real quick. Vinyl, especially PVC, is polyvinyl chloride. It will emit a very harmful gas that will not only be damaging to your lungs, it'll also damage your laser. So do not do anything vinyl with any laser. The consumables like lenses, nozzles, and protective glasses are available from xTool, of course. Todd, let's see. I already have mine, so I'll have to order. Update. The specs for the MetalFab laser that it can weld. Yep. I'm just looking here. Under final processing, there are several options. What is film removal? So film removal will be, so when you have like coated metal, this is how some stainless steel comes, and you see it has this film on it. That's what the film removal option is for. I typically just remove the film and then go from there, but you know, that's my experience with it. But if it's on the backside, I usually just leave it on. But you can peel it off. As you can see, this is some stainless steel that I cut, and it barely touched the edges. But typically, if it's on the front, I go ahead and remove it first. The reason being, with that film removal, you're not going to get a good read on your capacitive if you're doing the capacitive sensing. So I always remove the film when I'm doing it from the top. You have no problem cutting carbon steel, but you start to get a collision warning. You would get this message if you collided with it. So what will happen is, a lot of times if you're doing a very intricate cut, so if I was doing, say, something like I did this crown right here, what will happen is one of the pieces might not fall through all the way, and it'll tip up, and when the laser goes over it, it'll touch it, in which case it'll give you a collision warning. So at that point, what I usually do is I just push that little piece through, and then I press the button, and it resumes the job. So that should answer your question right there, Lee. Hopefully it does. I have not specifically welded actually I have welded 6061 with the MetalFab. It turns out really good. Now, one thing when you're welding any aluminum, you want to make sure to use the correct compressed gas as a shielding gas, which I use 100% argon when I'm welding my aluminum. And the other thing is, you don't want to use a thin aluminum wire. You want to use above 1.2 millimeters. So the 1.2 millimeter, the 1.6 millimeter. The reason being is when it's feeding that wire through, when it goes to retract, if it's the thinner stuff, it tends to bind up and it doesn't feed correctly. I've noticed that. So go ahead and use the thicker aluminum wire if you're going to do that. And no, it does not work with copper. The xTool is not supposed to use the copper. If you do copper, it can damage your laser due to the reflectiveness of it. But however, brass you can do. You can do brass, but not copper. Go ahead and pop over there. All right, it looks like I'm kind of live on the messages, hopefully. See if y'all have any other questions here. I'm trying to keep up to date. Since having the machine, what has the maintenance been? Roger asked me. So since I've got the machine, the only things I've really done for maintenance, I've went through one of the protective lenses, and that was my fault. So I did the rust removal inside of the machine with the CNC, and it was late at night, and I didn't go back and clean the lens right after. So lens maintenance is key. And then the next morning I went ahead and went to go cut something. It had a bunch of dust on it, and it toasted one of my lenses. So I went ahead and swapped that out. That was my maintenance. So other than actual swapping parts out like that, my maintenance has been just making sure the machine stays clean. My employee makes sure he wipes the machine down all the time, the inside and outside. I have done very minimal maintenance other than just cleaning. That's really it. can you cut sheets of metal, 2 sheets? I think I'm missing the O, Pablo. 2 sheets of metal at the same time? Yeah, as long as they're the same metal, I don't see why you couldn't. You could have 2 pieces in there. I've done that before myself. But one thing I would suggest is make sure they're the same metal alloy, because they're going to have a different capacitive value, and you're going to want to do them. You're going to want to calibrate the capacitive head for each one. How will the machine fare in an unheated shop between uses? So the MetalFab is actually rated. It's rated for a very wide temperature range. Let me look that up exactly. I forgot exactly what the temperature range is, but I know it's good for almost down to freezing, all the way up to, I think it was like 100 degrees. I would have to do the Celsius conversion. But in an unheated shop, as long as it's not extremely hot or extremely cold, I don't think it would be a problem. Now, I have been using mine. As you can see, there's an air conditioner behind it. I do typically use mine in the climate controlled shop. However, I have used it outside plenty when doing the rust removal and some welding projects and some freehand cutting. I typically take it outside when I'm doing that. And I live in Tennessee, and it's all of 90-something degrees a lot of the times when I'm doing that. So unheated, I haven't tested it out in the cold yet. Although I do keep my shop at 60 sometimes, or 65. It has gotten pretty chilly in here. So one of the other questions I got is, how do I go about dialing in my settings? So the best way to dial in your settings is get yourself some metal and practice. Practice different settings. I go ahead and I'll do like a little star is typically what I will do when I'm practicing the different cuts. The reason I do a star is because I don't just want the straight line cuts. I want small cuts. I want like the different angles where it's going to have to speed up and slow down. So typically when I'm doing any dialing in any settings like that, I'll typically start with what xTool provides for the material I'm using as a base setting. And then I'll go ahead and modify maybe the power, the duty cycle. I'll modify the frequency. I'll add my own pre-perforation if I feel it's necessary. I'll adjust the focus. The focus of on the dial of the nozzle. So I'll go ahead and adjust this guy right here. I'll adjust the Z height, how high I'm going from the material. I'll adjust the air pressure. It's all a matter of testing and just trying to see what works best for your material. And that does take time, and it takes a little material, but it's something I found when I go ahead and do that, I get the superior results that I'm looking for, because I want to make sure that it's cleanup. The cleanup is minimal. I don't want to be necessarily having to grind the material down at the end of it, and I don't want a bunch of dross. Thank you, Stephen, for throwing that temperature range there. So anywhere between 14 and 140, and operational temp is between 14 and 104. Thank you, Stephen, for that, for the assist there. I appreciate you. And yeah, from what I found, you can do test arrays, Kurt, although I don't typically do them. The reason being is if I find a failed result, I don't want to just move a little bit. I'll typically kind of go from there. What I'll do is I'll just typically I'll make my own sort of pseudo test grid where I'm only changing one thing at a time rather than the arrays where you can change 2. And I'll just do little small pieces. John, no, it is not meant to create depth maps as far as the depth engraving goes. If you're looking to do depth maps and things like that, what I do personally is I've cut out a lot of my coins in a lot of different like discs using aluminum and whatnot on the MetalFab, and I go ahead and use my F2 to do the depth map engraving. So you can get some really awesome depth maps with the F2, such as these. So that was done on my F2 Ultra using that MOPA laser, and I've cut some other ones here. So you can get some pretty cool results there. So, but I would typically, the MetalFab isn't going to get you the 3-dimensional depth engraving. It would just take way too long. You're definitely way better off doing that on something like that on the the xTool F2 Ultra. So as far as my drop tray goes, what I ended up putting in there is, due to me not wanting to pay my employee to clean up all the time, when I was using sand, I was getting a lot of sand all over the place, and it was really dusty. So what I found is I've got a 5mm thick welding blanket on Amazon, not the fiberglass one. It is it's a black, heavy duty, thick welding mat, and I do 2 layers of that. And now eventually that is going to kind of erode it, and it's going to wear it away. So it is a disposable item. It's something you will probably need to replace over time. But that is what I find works best for me. It ends up being a lot less cleanup and a lot less dust. So that's something that was important to me, because that was costing me money. Paying him to clean the machine was costing me more than the welding blanket was, so I went that route. I don't have a particular order, Warthog Customs, as far as when I'm switching between, when I'm changing my settings, when I'm dialing in new material, what I do first. It's kind of just something that it just comes with experience. That's all what's worked for me. Now there might be a more scientific approach where you should do one or the other, but typically what I'll do is I'll adjust one thing at a time. And typically I found I start with sometimes I'll start with the xTool base settings. And if you're getting good results with that, run with it. You're good to go. If not, it's something that I would suggest changing up. I will typically slow it down a little bit first, or speed it up depending on what my results are. But that's usually that's where I start with. I don't have a particular go-to, hey, I do this every single time. The best thing I would suggest is, I guess, look at your results and stay consistent with what you change. So don't try to change the power, duty cycle, frequency, shape, and all that all at once, and then dial in a new setting. Because when you do that, you're changing too many variables. So I typically will do one at a time. I'm usually running at 100% power. So that's usually what I'm running anyways. I typically don't run less unless I'm doing the engraving. So Rover asked, if I'm going to engrave something with the F2 Ultra, how can I make it instead of marking the square to show? I should be what I'm writing on the material before I engraved. Rover, can you go ahead and rephrase that? I think you mean, how can you make sure that it's the same size? So typically what I'll do is I'll cut it out on the F2 or on the MetalFab first. So I'll cut out my shape, and then I'll go throw it in the F2 Ultra, use that live framing, and go ahead and line everything up, and then run with it from there. That's how I've done a lot of my nameplates and things like that I've done in the past. So I hope that answers your question. What's going on, my rotor? Shout out to Monkey Woodworks. Good guy. He's also a P3 tester. So him and I will be, I'm sure, working together on some stuff pretty soon. So one of the things that I did was that metal flag. I went ahead and cut out the rectangle on my MetalFab, and then I went through it in the F2 for the engraving. I actually have a piece of that in the machine here. I'll be able to show you. So what I did is I practiced on a big piece first, so you can see that color. So this was done on the F2 Ultra, that flag right there. And then typically what I would have done is I would have just cut it out prior to that on the MetalFab. That's what I typically, that's my process. Now, that's not to say you can't do it in the reverse order. I just found that's what works for me. What's going on, Justin Bittner? So Justin is traveling right now. He's going over to Europe to that thing. But I went ahead and made him a nice little metal sign out of it. I made this right on the MetalFab using his logo. You can see just a little detail. Even the little pieces that hold the centers of the letters up. So the MetalFab can cut very, very, very refined. Oh, thank you. I wanted to switch the color up because people thought I was wearing the same shirt every day. So I had to go get some new colors. So y'all know that I do occasionally change. Roger, what gas and tip do I use to cut the 10 millimeter steel? What I use the extended nozzle, and I would use oxygen for that. And it's the 1 millimeter lens, the double layer lens, or the double layer nozzle, not lens. Sorry, got that mixed up. So the double layer nozzle and the 1 millimeter, and I would use oxygen for that. Cliff, unfortunately, I do not have any information about a rotary. I just haven't heard anything about it. I wish I could tell you some more about it, but unfortunately, I don't have that info on you for you. But I will be putting out some more videos on different techniques that I use outside of even just this live stream, although I do love doing these live streams for y'all. If you do want to go ahead and subscribe, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to me on YouTube, Diode Designs. You can look me right up. And then in the future, when I put out those MetalFab demo videos and the different tutorials that I'm going to be doing, I'll go ahead. You guys will get notified for that. I try to do a bunch of videos, and I have been trying to do more and more. It's just, as anybody that's done any YouTube content can attest to, the editing is a very long process, and that kind of holds me back sometimes due to my lack of free time. But I do have a bunch of MetalFab related content recorded. I just need to go ahead and put the final touches editing it, and I'm going to go over all that stuff, and that'll be posted to my YouTube. Richard, I do not. There will be no additional cost for the engraving. That is just going to be a software update that should be coming out soon. That's going to be via xTool Studio when that is released. And how big of a project, Roger asked, have I done with the pass-through? I have done a 2 foot or slightly less than 2 feet. So I think it was like 20 inches long or wide by, I did, I think 3 foot long, and I did it for a big metal sign. And all I did was I broke apart the design into 2 pieces, and then I went ahead with the pass through and moved it on through, and I finished it up that way. So that's just something you'll need to edit your design with a little bit, and you'll be able to get the final result you're hopefully looking for that way. When I engrave something real small, usually show the square and the frame. I saw a video where it showed the machine for the first time. It shows the word instead of the frame. Oh, Roger, I don't think you're, I'm not sure you're talking about the MetalFab, but I'll answer your question anyways. I believe you're talking about a feature on the F2, but because we talked about the F2, I'll answer that. So to do that, next to the framing, you'll click on the 3 dots. and you're going to go ahead and switch the type of framing. And that'll get you that, rather than doing the outline framing, it'll actually trace the outline of your object, or there's a polygon mode, I believe now, for the F2. So it depends which one you're using there. But let me see if I can show you that. I might have to turn my F2 Ultra on. I'll open that for you. I'll show you how to do that real quick. Let me just open up xTool Creative Space. Oh, Sarah explained it very elegantly. So I see y'all got that. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down a little bit. I'm a little bit behind on the messages. So yeah, you can absolutely, Pablo, you can absolutely export your SVGs or anything like, or the SVGs or DXFs from software like Adobe Illustrator and import them right into XCS. And it does align pretty well on the pass-through, Tom. What you're gonna do, my suggestion, how I did it, is I went ahead and took a capture close view right over the metal. And I was able to get it lined up pretty darn well, indistinguishable from whether I cut it in one pass or not. So I would say it lined up really well, especially with that capture close view, once you have your cameras calibrated and all that. Yeah, so Roger, it would be something like a tile job. You would need to do multiple pieces. There isn't currently a feature to go ahead and just pass it through and move it X amount and line it up. Although that would be really cool if they had a way to do it like with some registration marks or something. Maybe that could be a future update that they could work on. That'd be awesome. I think that would be very helpful, actually. Let me see if there's any other questions I missed. I appreciate you all in the comments and in the chat there, answering those questions too. All right. Let me see. Let me just check that other chat. So I'll show you guys one of the other projects that I did recently that I think is awesome. So if you're looking for something that you could do with this, the MetalFab, so you can check that out. I went ahead and made some wind spinners. I cut this right out of some scrap stainless steel that I had laying around. These are really popular. I have had a ton of interest and I will be selling a lot of them. All I did is I created a design and it ends up cutting it flat. And then I ended up just twisting it. And there you go. So then you could also do things with like coated metal or colored metal and do things like that. You could paint on them after, whatever you guys want to do there. But like, that's just another idea where you guys can go ahead and find a way to generate some extra profits with your MetalFab. Let me see if we have any other questions. If not, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. What's going on, Beth? So yeah, when it comes to the engraving, I mean, one of the other things I've done with it is I've just done the engraving on the center of some of these wind chimes, and that's come out awesome. So definitely definitely something to think about. You know, you could do tons of little projects like that with even your scrap pieces. And one of the cool features that XCS has is they have that nesting feature where if you go ahead and take your designs and you can actually actively smart nest them, and it'll use the camera system to place it on your scrap piece of metal. So you don't even need to like rotate it and line it all up yourself. Can you take a picture on your MetalFab? No. I could show you the MetalFab. You could probably do a screenshot of it, but I don't think you can take a picture on my metal. Oh, unless you're asking me to flop over on the MetalFab, in which case, no, it's out of the crate. I cannot take a photo on my MetalFab. I am way too large for that. That glass or that lid will not support me. Evan, we did one lucky draw earlier for, and let me look at see who won. Jimmy from YouTube, Jeffy, and then I believe the other one was Bob. Josh, yes, I do need to make a hat to match the shirt. I actually did make it. I just haven't had a chance to press it yet. Ran out of time today. I was at Next Level Laser last week. That was an awesome convention. So I haven't had a chance to press the hat. I did make it, and I ran out of time today. I have not done any engraving on sheet titanium, Joe, with the F2 yet. Although that is something I do want to do. I just got to buy a big sheet of titanium. And then we could also, of course, you can also cut that titanium into smaller pieces with your MetalFab. It's one of the things I plan on doing. And is there a setting? Yes, there are preset settings for your little etch marks and your engraving. Again, start with the, depending on your material, start with the preset or preset settings. And then if you're not getting the results you want, go ahead and dial it in a little bit from there. I highly suggest that. Thanks, Evan. Yeah, sure, Beth. Go ahead. You could just plank my MetalFab. That's fine. Except it is a very, I would say it's not a seat at the top, so you gotta watch that. I haven't had much luck with the multiple parts and smart nesting. Really, Matt, one thing that's key is depending on the sizes of your objects, they need to be able to fit on there too. So you need to take that into account. I have had really good luck lately with the nesting aspect though. And then you could always do a manual nest where as long as the objects fit inside a box, you go ahead and manually enter the dimensions that you want it nested in, and then you can place it right on there. And yeah, Jennifer, I am bouncing around doing multiple streams. I am doing both Facebook and YouTube. So it's being live streamed on my Facebook or my YouTube, xTool's YouTube, as well as on Facebook Live. David mentioned that the titanium on the F2 Ultra is amazing. Yeah, I've seen some of the results that another xTool squad member got, Jacob. He's got some amazing results on the color. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, he did a live stream, I think it was 2 weeks ago, on the F2 Ultra. I highly suggest checking that out. It's on xTool's YouTube channel. And Bill Burr, I believe all of the machines currently have been shipping from the US hub. And Richard Newton, I have not heard of any updates, unfortunately, for a conveyor for the MetalFab, although I have asked myself also. I wish I could tell you. It overlaps the parts. I haven't experienced that. Maybe send me a screenshot, Matt, and I'll take a look at that, but I haven't seen it where it overlaps the parts. And Todd, yes, it is air cooled. It is not water cooled. As you can, well, I have my noise gates on and my mics. Otherwise, you'd be able to hear the fans from the MetalFab in the background, keeping it nice and cool. So yeah, I hope you guys learned a lot. And if you guys have any questions, yeah, you can feel free to reach out. And don't forget, if you guys want some training, some one-on-one training, you can always book with the xTool squad. You can find the links to that right on xTool's website. I'm a member of xTool squad. I give one-on-one trainings right here out of the shop. As you can see, I have quite a few machines all around me. There's also plenty of other qualified members in the group that do demos, that do training, and I highly suggest checking that out if you guys need some more one-on-one training or need some help. And if you do want a one-on-one demo for the MetalFab, I am on there. I'd be happy. I'd love to give you guys a one-on-one demo. And yeah, xTool Squad's been a cool experience. It's definitely been a good way that we can do more to help the community in a one-on-one setting. And yeah, Bill, I can't stack this up against that other company because I don't have both in my shop. One thing I can tell you is the reason I stuck with xTool, one of the major selling points for me was that coherent chipset. I do know that that is the top of the line chipset that is the industry gold standard for chips, and you can get over 10,000 hours of use out of their xTool's chipset. I also like that xTool from my experience, has always stood behind their products. They do offer the extended warranty. They do offer good support. Sometimes they have to work through things, but that's any company. I have worked with multiple laser companies in the past, and I've stuck with xTool because I've had the best experience with that overall. Pablo, no, you cannot do threading on a cylindrical tube. There is no way, there's no rotary for the MetalFab quite yet, or that I'm aware of, at least. I don't have one. So I don't think threaded things on are a thing that you can do. I think that's more of a CNC kind of job. But let's see if y'all have any more questions. I'm trying to bounce between them. If y'all have any more questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat right now. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and get this thing wrapped up. And then again, if you guys have any questions after that, you can always reach out to me. You can reach out to xTool. You can reach out to xTool Squad. There's plenty of people more than willing to help. There's always also the xTool Facebook groups. Again, I'm going to be putting out a lot more videos on my YouTube. You can find me at Diode Designs on YouTube. I'm going to be putting out a bunch of tutorials and stuff across a bunch of different machines, including the F2, the MetalFab, the P3 once I'm allowed to. And then, as you know, I've been doing, there's cleaning videos and different things like that and how I do the maintenance for the different machines already on there. So hopefully that's helping y'all. Beth, the size of the bed, it is a 2 foot by 2 foot work area, although it does have a pass through where you can pass through up to 10 millimeter thick steel. You can see that right in that little slot in the side right there. So you can pass through a 2 foot wide by however long you'd like and go ahead and work it that way. That's one of the things I'm most excited for. I'm going to go ahead and be combining projects that I cut out maybe some thin brass and some thin stainless steel on my MetalFab and go ahead and do it as inlays or overlays even for my new projects on the P3. So I love combining the different lasers that xTool offers and being able to do different projects like that. So I think that's going to be a big step up for me. I love combining, you know, the different materials too. It's just a way to stand out and elevate and, you know, do things that other people aren't doing. But I think I'm caught up on all the questions, and I am definitely hitting live, so we're good there. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. Again, I'm Mike Smirka. I own Dow Designs. If y'all have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me or reach out to xTool support. Book a training session on xTool Squad. However you want to do it. And if you would like a one-on-one demo, that's a good way to do it, xTool Squad. Just want to remind you guys, the $300 off just the MetalFab right now. And then if you buy the MetalFab and the CNC as a combo unit with the coupon code right over to this side, the right there, you can go ahead and save yourself $500 on that. And then right now they're having the promotion where you also get the rust removal tool that you've seen here today. So I appreciate you all showing up. If y'all have any questions, again, drop them. But I appreciate y'all, and I'll see you guys on the next one.